Forget the national headlines for a moment. Real politics, the kind that actually changes lives, happens on the ground, in places just like this. Today, we're going to do something different. We're diving deep into one single constituency, Tuensang Sadar I, in Nagaland, to perform a kind of political autopsy. Now, this isn't about picking sides, it's not about blaming people. It's about calmly understanding the systems at play, feeling the real pulse of the people, and figuring out a blueprint for governance that truly serves them.
Here's the path we'll take together. First, we'll get a feel for the pulse of Nagaland itself. Then, we'll decode what the voters said with their ballots, what the numbers are really telling us. After that, we'll uncover the invisible forces that shaped this election. From that diagnosis, we'll design a blueprint for earning a real people's mandate. And finally, we'll bring it all back to the one thing that truly matters: governance.
So you might be wondering, why this one place? Why Tuensang Sadar I? Because it's a perfect microcosm. It tells the entire story of India's Northeast in miniature. You've got this incredible mix of deep-rooted history, distinct tribal identities, and this urgent, pressing need for development, all in one place. You see, if we can understand the dynamics here, we start to understand the whole region.
And look, this isn't just a location on a map. This is a homeland. It's a place shaped by the identities of the Chang and Konyak tribes, by the deep influence of the church in daily life, and by the very real, very tangible struggles of living in the Naga Hills. Every promise made here, every political move, it has to start from the soil itself, from the people who live on it.
Now let's talk scale. We're talking about just 22,084 electors. In the giant ocean of Indian democracy, that might sound small. But what it really means is that politics here is intimate, it's personal. This is a community where every vote matters, every family is known, and the impact of a leader, good or bad, is felt immediately, right at the kitchen table. And right here, this is our first big clue. In 2023, the voter turnout was just over 76%. Now, in many parts of India, you'd say that's pretty good, but not here. This is a place that has historically seen turnout soaring past 95%. So, a nearly 20-point drop? That's not just a dip, that's a political earthquake. Is it apathy? Is it anger? Or is it a form of silent protest? When that many people decide to stay home, you have to ask what it means for the mandate itself. So let's listen to that message. We're going to treat these numbers not as dry statistics, but as a direct communication from the people. The data tells a story of trust, maybe hope, maybe disappointment. Our job is just to listen very carefully to what it has to say.
Okay, here's the top-line dashboard from 2023. The Naga People's Front, or NPF, got about 43% of the vote. The winner, an independent candidate backed by the state's ruling alliance, pulled in nearly 57%. That margin, over 13%, which is more than 2,000 votes, that wasn't just a victory. It was a clear, decisive statement. There was really no room for doubt in this result.
And you can see that gap plain as day right here. That 13.5% margin tells the entire story of this election in a single image. It shows that a huge chunk of the electorate decided it was time for a change, a big change, from the party that had won a landslide just 5 years before. So the real question becomes, why? Why such a massive shift in just 5 years?
And when you look at the history, you realize the answer isn't simple, because this place is defined by volatility. I mean, look at this. Turnout's hitting almost 96%. This is a deeply engaged community. And then look at the NPF's journey. They didn't even contest in 2013. Then they surged to a massive, near 60% win in 2018, only to collapse by 16 points 5 years later. This is not the story of blind loyalty. This is the story of a thinking electorate that gives a mandate and takes it away, based on what it sees and feels on the ground.
You know, when you see mandates shift so dramatically, it really forces you to pause and remember something fundamental. Politics isn't just a game of winning. The words we use, the speeches we give, they carry a real responsibility. A responsibility to uphold the dignity of every single person and to have an honest public conversation. Because when trust breaks down, as these numbers suggest it did, it's often because that communication has failed.
All right, let's shift our focus now. This result wasn't just about one candidate being better or one speech being more powerful. It was about systems. We have to look at the invisible currents moving underneath the surface, the internal machinery of the parties, and the external world they were operating in. That's what created the conditions for this outcome.
To really get why any political group wins or loses, you have to look at it from 4 different angles. On one side, you have the internal reality. What are the party's strengths, like its legacy and local roots? But also, what are its weaknesses, like organizational gaps or infighting?
Then, on the other side, you have the external world. What were the opportunities out there, like public anger against the incumbent? And what were the threats, like a powerful, well-funded opponent? The election was decided right where these four forces met.
So, if we zoom out even further, what does the broader environment look like? Well, politically, you've got the dominant state alliance of the NDP and BJP, a huge force. Economically, and this is a big one, you have youth unemployment over 18%, and rising prices are hitting every family. Socially, the real power, the real influence comes from clan loyalties and the church networks. And technologically, the quiet revolution of WhatsApp is changing how information spreads, even in the most remote areas.
So, after all that analysis, what do people on the ground actually care about? It's not some abstract ideology. It is the stuff of daily life. The broken roads that cut off villages, the young people with degrees but no jobs, the price of fuel and rice going up, health centers that don't have enough staff, and schools that aren't good enough for their kids. This isn't just a list of complaints. This is a blueprint for governance, handed to the leaders by the people themselves.
If you wanted to boil it all down into one sentence, this is it. The roads are broken, the youth are idle, and prices are rising. This isn't a political slogan cooked up in some back room. This is the real, unfiltered verdict from the ground. This is what decided the election.
Okay, so we've diagnosed the problem. But what's the cure? This is where we pivot from just analyzing to building a real prescriptive blueprint. And this is not about political tricks. This is about systematically engineering a strategy to rebuild trust and earn a mandate that is truly by the people and for the people. A mandate to actually govern, not just to rule.
The framework we use for this is something we call the Chatramukha Doctrine, which means four-faced. The idea is actually very simple. A modern political effort has four faces, and they all have to be looking in the same direction. Your electoral strategy, your organization on the ground, the story you tell the public, and how you manage your resources, they all have to work in perfect sync. If even one is out of step, the whole thing falls apart.
So what does that mean right here, on the ground? Well, electorally, it means building a social coalition between the Chang and Konyak communities, focused only on their shared local problems. Organizationally, it means going hyper-local, rebuilding motivated teams at every single polling booth. The narrative, the story you tell, has to be simple and powerful. A story of local pride versus outside control. And for resources, it's about smart local fundraising and training your own volunteers to carry that message.
And look, this isn't just a vague hope. It's a disciplined 90-day plan, a ladder to climb back into people's trust. You start with 30 days of just listening and analyzing data. We call it ground truthing. The next 30 days are for shaping your message based on what you heard. And only then, in the final 30 days, do you go out and mobilize. The order is everything. Listen, refine, and then act.
And this brings us to the most important part of this whole discussion, the real heart of the matter. All the strategy, all the data, all the hard work, it means absolutely nothing if it doesn't serve a higher purpose. You see, the goal is not to win an election. The ultimate goal, the only one that actually matters, is to govern well. So this is the fundamental question we all have to ask ourselves. Beyond the victory party, beyond holding an office, what is the true purpose of asking people for their vote, for their trust? The only answer, the only acceptable answer, is to turn that vote into real, tangible, visible improvements in their daily lives. Anything less is a betrayal of that trust. And as we talk about using modern tools like data to understand people, there's a huge responsibility that comes with it. Any strategy that uses citizen information must be built on a foundation of privacy and consent, following the principles of India's data protection laws. Trust is earned, not just by what you promise, but by how much you respect the very people you want to serve.
Which leads us to a fundamental redefinition of what an election is. An election isn't just a political contest. It is the single largest data engineering project a society can undertake. It is the process of collecting the grievances, the hopes, the dreams of an entire community, all for one purpose: to engineer better governance from that data.
The data gives you the insight. A good strategy gives you the path. But the destination must always be a mandate for real, effective, people-centric governance. If you want to become a people-centric leader and uplift your constituency, get in touch with blueprintstrategies.ai at mgr@blueprintstrategies.ai or call 0800-4204-1602. Purpose beyond politics.